Hey everyone, welcome to the Return of the Logos podcast, where we're attempting to return logic to a chaotic world by shining a light on the shadows. Welcome back to the Return of the Logos podcast. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting us and showing some love, downloading and following the podcast. So today we're going to get into part 2 of what we started on. The last episode was media lies. However, we do have a little bit of housekeeping that we want to get into first. It's basically just some fact checks from the last episode. So in the last episode, we were questioning when the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop. And the date on that, the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop as of December 9th, 2019.
Yep.
So, and that came directly, there was a Senate committee hearing and Senator John Kennedy was actually brought that up. So we know that that's an accurate date. And another thing we were talking about was the percentage of people who would have possibly changed their vote if they had known about the Hunter Biden laptop. I found from the Media Research Center, 17% of people, according to the Media Research Center, would have either changed their vote or not voted for Biden had they known.
That's substantial.
That's substantial. That's Trump getting reelected.
Yep. So that's even higher than what you, because I think you stated 13%.
I think I said 13. So that actually did possibly swing the election to Biden just by covering that up.
Yep.
So last bit of housekeeping was we talked a little bit about media approval percentage.
Yeah.
So this is a Gallup poll, whether you like Gallup or not, or feel like you can trust them. As of October 24, this was a poll that they did. So again, this is media approval percentage. 36% of people said that they had no trust whatsoever in the media. 33% said not very much trust in the media. So you're at 69% right there that have absolutely none or very little trust in the media. So what does that leave? 31%? That leaves 31% that actually have some trust in the media. And there's an interesting breakdown by political view. So by political party, Democrats, 54% of Democrats say that they have a great deal or a fair amount of trust in the media. 27% of independents say that they have a great deal or fair amount of trust in media. And 12% of Republicans say that they have a great deal or fair amount of trust in the media. So you can see how it breaks down by political party.
Quite a divide.
It is, and I think that kind of goes to show you a little bit what we kind of hinted towards, or I may have even said it outright, how it seems like currently, what would you call it, the corporate media is kind of turned into the talking head or outgrowth of the Democratic Party, the machine, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell which is which, and it's all timing, you know?
Yeah.
Because right now the Democrat Party is the machine.
Yeah.
But historically, that's not always the case.
Right. And that's why, whenever, if I get into a political discussion with somebody, and if they happen to ask me, like, are you a Republican or a Democrat or whatever, it's like, I don't identify as a Republican, right? And I don't necessarily identify as an independent. I just say I'm conservative, right? Because the core values of conservatism are most aligned with what I believe, not necessarily the tenets of a Republican Party, because I think the tenets of any political party kind of wax and wane over time, and they morph and they change. So that's why I never call myself a Republican.
Yeah. Well, and I think the whole point of us doing this fact check, there's a lot of people that don't know who to trust and they don't know where to get information from. So we fact checked ourselves on 3 of the things that we said,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of them were accurate. So 2019 was the year FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop in their possession.
So, yeah.
Right.
we're right on that.
Both of your estimates were,
Actually, lower.
yeah, conservative.
Yeah.
Because I think you said 13%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
It's actually 17%.
Yeah.
And I think you said 32%.
Yeah. No, well,
And
so it would actually be 31. So I was 1 percentage point off. But
yeah,
yeah. So I think to your point is we ourselves feel like we can't trust at least corporate media. We have people that we listen to that we feel like we can trust, and we want for all of you to feel like you can trust us, because we're not here to blow smoke up anybody's butt. We're both interested in the truth, and we think that we're coming to a point where the truth is bubbling up and people are ready and willing to hear it. And that's what we want to be a part of.
yep,
So.
absolutely.
So you want to put a bow on the last episode?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'm not going to recap the entire last episode. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. There's a lot of information. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. There's a lot of people out there that just don't have the time to sort through all this stuff.
Or that may be interested but just aren't necessarily engaged.
Well, and sometimes this is stuff that's happened over a 3-4 year period.
Right.
So there may be points where they were engaged and that they saw something and they were like, well, okay.
And then you don't hear anything about it for
Yeah.
3 months
Yeah.
and you forget about it.
And then, at that point in time, who knows what's going on in your life.
Right.
And politics are not the most important thing in life.
No,
They're not. They are impactful,
for sure.
but they're not the most important thing. So, yeah, I think just to put a bow on, you said you wanted to plant a seed of doubt. The seed of doubt that I want to plant is whenever a politician, regardless of party, whenever someone in the media says the words disinformation, misinformation, hate speech, anything that is meant to silence the person that is speaking, you should question it.
Well, and I would always say, this is what I always say to people, and I've heard other people say it too, and I may have just ripped it off from them, but when at any point in history has the person who is silencing people been the good guy? Never, right? Because if you're the good guy, you don't need to silence your opposition, because you know and everyone knows that what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah, if you have the truth behind you and you trust the people, that's key.
Yeah.
And you trust the people to make up their own minds given the facts.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to just show a couple little clips here, because even after all of the water that the media was carrying for Democrats and all of the subterfuge, everything that the CIA, FBI, everybody did to try and silence and stop the laptop story from becoming mainstream knowledge. Even after all of that, they still had the gall to create a disinformation board.
So 1984. It is. I mean,
Very
it's
much so.
Like, to me, that was like, when I heard that, I'm like, did I just step into an Orwell book? Because it's just so on the nose.
Yeah.
It couldn't be, it just slaps you in the face.
So the funny thing is that the disinformation board already existed. It existed the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It
They
was
just made it public.
It was all the mainstream media and the FBI and the CIA. They were all doing it already anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the gall to actually start a program and provide public knowledge of it called the Disinformation Board.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that they decided was going to lead this Disinformation Board, her name was Nina Jankowicz. Let's just hear Nina Jankowicz, most popular introduction to
Biggest hits, her greatest hits.
Yeah, the greatest hits.
It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origin seems slightly less atrocious.
She specifically mentions Rudy. She says that we shouldn't support them with our wallet, that we shouldn't support them with our vote. And this whole stupid song, in what world did she think that that was going to connect with people?
I don't know. I think this just goes to show like how far in another world some of these people are. Like how disconnected from reality, you know, because that's clearly like, do you think that connects with people? It doesn't. It's like, oh, you're singing a Mary Poppins song about how disinformation is bad. Like how my whole thing with misinformation and disinformation is like, how do you know what's misinformation and disinformation? And furthermore, the thing that I noticed from the very beginning, when this became kind of like a discussion point in the media and in politics, was how they would just arbitrarily swap the definitions of misinformation and disinformation, which are two totally different things, right? Disinformation is the intentional planting of false information, like in a disinformation campaign during war. Right. Whereas misinformation is like, you know, yeah, maybe somebody just made a mistake. Those are two totally different things. You know, and then they paint it all as misinformation.
And I think the important thing to recognize is who is the arbiter of truth.
Right, exactly.
And they have decided, they being the government, has decided that apparently Nina Jankowicz needs to be the arbiter of truth.
Yeah.
This is Senator Josh Hawley.
Mr. Secretary, nice to see you again. Thank you for being here. Let's keep talking about this disinformation board if we could. The fact sheet from DHS on the disinformation board that you recently released defined disinformation this way: false information spread with the intent to deceive or mislead. You agree with that, I assume? That's your definition?
Yes, I believe that's the definition.
On the fact sheet.
Broadly held.
And you think it's important that the U.S. government combat this disinformation, right? I mean, you've testified to that.
Senator, what I testified to is when disinformation
threatens national security.
Threat to the security of our homeland, then we are engaged.
Okay, all right, good. And I presume that's why you've set up this disinformation board. So let's have a look at the person whom you've selected to head this new disinformation policing effort, and let's look at what she has been spreading online. She has, for starters, consistently misinformed the public about the Hunter Biden laptop story and spread the lie that it was Russian propaganda. Here she is on October the 14th saying, disinformation experts say there are multiple red flags that raise doubts about their authenticity, meaning the emails, including questions about whether the laptop actually belongs to Hunter Biden. Of course, as it turns out, that's totally false. This laptop has been authenticated both by government entities and by independent news organizations. She went on. Here she is again, the same interview, saying that we should view it, meaning the laptop and apparently the whole story, as a Trump campaign product. That is also a lie, which you know. It's not a Trump campaign product. It never was a Trump campaign product. But she didn't stop there. Here she is on October the 22nd in 2020, this time taking to social media, saying that Biden notes 50 former NatSec officials and 5 former CIA heads that believe the laptop is a Russian influence op. Laundering here, using former government officials to launder the lie that this was in fact a Russian influence op, which of course is not true at all. Here she is also on October the 22nd, still on social media, This time saying the emails don't need to be altered to be part of an influence campaign. Of course, they weren't altered. Voters deserve that context, not a fairy tale about a laptop repair shop. Of course, we know the only person in all of this telling a fairy tale is Ms. Jankowicz on social media repeatedly for days and days on end. How about a different set of examples? She has consistently spread false and misleading claims about the Steele dossier, which we now know was actually itself a piece of Russian propaganda. Here she is on December the 8th, 2017, responding, by the way, to United States Senator. She's responding to Lindsey Graham. She says to him, your party funded the dossier first. The FBI was investigating Trump since the summer, but didn't make it public. The American public deserved to know. This is false. The people who funded the dossier were the Clinton campaign, which we now know. This has been verified. This is outright falsehoods. But she didn't stop there. Here she is on August the 7th, 2020, promoting Christopher Steele, the stooge who helped launder Russian propaganda, including lying to the FBI about it. Here she is lauding him as a trustworthy and legitimate source. Classic disinformation. She says she listened to this last night. Chris Steele, yes, that Chris Steele, providing great historical context about the evolution of disinformation. At every turn, Mr. Secretary, she has used social media and the public to launder propaganda herself. She's also advocated for law enforcement to be involved in policing speech online. Here she is in an NPR interview this year, just a few weeks ago, April 16th, 2022. This is Ms. Jankowicz, and I quote, I shudder to think about if free speech absolutists were taking over more platforms. We need platforms to do more, and we frankly need law enforcement and our legislatures to do more as well. And then she goes on to praise legislation in other countries that involves policing speech. Or here she is on February 17th of 2021, saying that the free speech versus censorship dichotomy is false, and calling herself in a TikTok video the Mary Poppins of disinformation, where she sings that members of Congress shouldn't be permitted to spread misinformation on the floor, and otherwise taking to task those who propagate views she disagrees with. Here's my question to you. If your intent was to combat misinformation online or in the government, why on God's green earth would you nominate someone who is a human geyser of misinformation?
Josh Hawley's an amazing lawmaker. Like, he's so good. He's on it. But what I'd like to say about this is, and this partially plays into the title of our podcast, Return of the Logos, is that, you know, anyone who questions free speech, they're fundamentally either a naive or a bad person. And the reason that I say that is because speech it's how we communicate, right? But it's something deeper than that. Speech is making our thoughts a reality.
It's how we think.
Right. What you say is a direct representation of what you think. So anyone that is calling for censorship. Now, I'm not an absolutist. I do think that, yeah, you shouldn't be able to threaten people with violence or things like that, right? That's, but just the ideas, right? If you're censoring someone's speech, you're essentially censoring their thought. And it will happen over time. The more that you can get someone to police their own speech, they will change their own thought patterns. It's like the anecdotes you hear about from the old Soviet Union, families that would say to their kids or whatever, when you go to school, you can't say anything that you've heard in this house, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the level that they were knocking on the door of that, and I think this is, like I said, this is one of the reasons why we decided on the name of the podcast that we did, right? Yeah. Because we have to be able to discuss these things freely. The free discussion and the free exchange of ideas, without that, you have nothing. There is no freedom. There is no liberty at all if you don't have the freedom to express your thoughts through speech.
Absolutely. That's well said. The reason why I let all that play out, that last clip, the scary part about all that is this is the person that Mayorkas put in charge,
Yeah.
okay? And she specifically states that she thinks there should be speech law. She basically wants law enforcement to get involved.
Yeah.
While she's discussing information laundering,
She's laundering it herself.
it's exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he states that the only reason for it is for the security of the homeland.
Yeah. Heard that one before.
Yeah, so that
Patriot Act oh.
yeah,
2.0.
Exactly. So there is enough there to give anybody pause.
Yeah.
Free speech is super important, and we touched a little bit on this in episode 1, self-silencing
Yep.
and what that means for the people that are doing it. You know, I think it was Jordan Peterson that mentioned we speak so that we can say our thoughts out loud, so that we can test them out. We can get other people's opinion and feedback, so that our stupid ideas are what die.
Yep.
Not us.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. When they use the term, for the security of the homeland, those types of phrases always make me think of Benjamin Franklin, who said, and I'm probably going to butcher the quote, but I'm going to get the general idea of it correct. Those who sacrifice their liberty for security will lose both.
and deserve neither.
And deserve neither. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an inherent thing with your freedom. The more freedom you have, you actually have more responsibility. You have to take responsibility for your own security.
Yep.
You can't rely, because as soon as you start relying on someone else for your security, they have power over you. And whether you want to admit it or not, there are evil people in this world who will take advantage of that and take that power and do whatever they want with it.
Yep. And it is our own job, our duty as Americans to defend that.
100%.
And so when people say the cliche, I disagree with you, but I would defend your right
To say it.
to say it.
Yep. That's true.
There's a reason that people say that,
Yeah.
and it's a real thing. All right, so we've got a lot of clips for you guys today. Turns out when covering media lies, it's a thick Rolodex.
Yeah, for sure. But we did narrow it down a little bit to a handful of what we think are, over the last several years, some of the most blatant lies.
Yep.
And once again, like the massive amount of clips, like we said before, it's not something that we typically want to do a lot of, because we do want this show to be a lot more about discussion. But with this particular topic, we feel the need to do this
Yeah, it's just better.
in their own words.
It's better for you to hear their own words than our opinion. And just keep in mind, all of the stuff that we're talking about, it doesn't come with apologies after the lie is exposed. It's just like it never happened.
They do sometimes print retractions, but I heard Tim Pool gave an interesting take on this before, and I think it's right. The massive headline, the lie, will get a lot of clicks because it's scandalous or whatever, right? Then 2 months later, 3 months later, if they do print a retraction or a fact check, they bury it. Or they don't have to bury it, but they still get the clicks, right? So his point being is that they don't have any interest in actually putting out the truth. They're not interested in taking their time to vet a story for the truth, because they know they get the headline, whether it's true or false, they get the clicks. And then if they print the retraction and if they publicize the retraction, they get the clicks. So whatever path they take, they're just making money because they're in it for the clicks now. They're not in it anymore for the eyeballs. They're in it for the clicks.
Well, and I don't think they care about the truth.
I don't think they do either.
I think, and that's part of what we're trying to prove.
Yeah.
Is that they don't care about the truth. it is more about if you say something often enough and long enough, it becomes truth. And even when you attract a story, you've already done what you had set out to do. And that's to try and taint someone, to try and smear someone.
To further your narrative.
Well, and that's why they call them smear campaigns or hit pieces.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Okay, so I'm just going to get right into this. Let's talk about Bidenomics. What the media and Biden and Harris said about Bidenomics. And I'll just say that their whole justification for everything that they were saying was touting job numbers.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's hear Joe Biden talking about people questioning the authenticity of the job numbers.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio described today's jobs report as having fake numbers. What do you make of that? And how worried are you that many Americans are hearing that the jobs numbers aren't real?
Well, look, I'm going to be very careful here. If you notice, anything the MAGA Republicans don't like, they call fake. Anything. The job numbers are what the job numbers are. They're real. They're sincere. They're what we are. And by the way, just look at how the EU talks about us, how they like to have an economy like ours. Just talk about the rest of the world looks at us and what we're doing. So I don't want to get going.
He doesn't want to get going.
He doesn't want to get going. And I think the one thing that I'll point out, and I mean, we've talked about it before, but just to say it again, maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but it's like people who are doing these interviews, they don't ever give any pushback.
There's no follow-up.
There's no follow-up. They do it to Trump, right? They'll browbeat him, and we'll see that
Hard,
later
yeah.
in some other clips. They browbeat him,
Yeah.
right? So that just is just another example of how you can tell who the media is working for, you know?
Absolutely. The other thing I'll say about that is he pauses and he says, I'm going to be very careful about what I say.
Yeah, it's like, why? What are you being careful about?
Why are you so careful?
Probably because he forgot the number that they made up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Is it because you're afraid you might say something
true.
incriminating or that you know to be false? So let's see what the media says about that.
Earlier this month on X, Biden wrote that, quote, "We've created close to 800,000 manufacturing jobs since I've taken office." PolitiFact says that claim is mostly true.
Biden's statement was actually surprisingly accurate.
Even though a community note was added to the post, casting doubt on the president's claims, PolitiFact says federal data shows that Biden is right on the number of manufacturing jobs created. PolitiFact reports that the first 3 quarters of those job gains represented a return to pre-recession levels.
It turns out that this is the second best ever since World War II, and one of only 4 times out of 12 that there's even been a positive bounce back.
PolitiFact says comparing historical patterns shows that manufacturing employment is the strongest it's been in 72 years.
I want to say, because they're quoting PolitiFact, which is a fact-checking organization. And so I just want to point out that whenever you hear people talking about fact-checking, you need to be aware that a lot of quote-unquote fact-checking is not fact-checking. Because if they were actually fact-checking, they weren't just looking at the government numbers and saying, okay, that's what the government said, so it's correct, right?
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no. Yeah, 2 things to piggyback on what you're saying. In our last episode, you'll notice that interview with Zuckerberg, he mentioned the fact checkers as well.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, we don't want to decide what's true and false.
Yeah, we let the fact checkers do it.
So this is probably another episode, but try to find out where those independent fact checkers are getting paid from.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, it's about 12 clicks deep, and it's multiple websites that you have to go through.
Yeah, but you can find it.
At the end of it, you find out that Meta is one of the people that's
A big.
yeah. So we
contributor.
don't want to decide what's true or false.
Yeah.
But
We pay the fact checkers, but the fact checkers are
they're independent.
They're independent.
Totally independent.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. And the other thing I wanted everyone to take note of is that number, 800,000.
800,000. Remember that number.
Remember, 800,000 jobs.
Because that's the number they'd been bragging about for this whole time.
Yep, and that's the number that PolitiFact says is correct.
And as today's jobs numbers make clear, Bidenomics is working. Today's numbers reflect the point that President Biden has made many times. America's economy is strong and experiencing stable and steady growth.
There's just something about her voice that just like makes me want to bang my head against a wall.
Nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah. It's real like school marmy, like anyway. That's just a personal
It's
thing.
super smarmy. Okay, so Bidenomics, the job numbers are what support Bidenomics working. Media and fact checkers back that up. Joe Biden says the job numbers are what the job numbers are. And the other thing I'll mention is Joe Biden also mentioned, just look at the other countries.
They want to be.
They wish they had our economy.
Mm-hmm.
As if that is somehow proof that he's doing a good job.
Right.
That has been the truth since the end of World War II.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is not a justification, and that does not show that Bidenomics is working.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So, strangely enough, there was a correction.
No way.
There was a mistake.
I can't believe it. Tell me more.
Let's see if we can find out about it.
Welcome back in. A massive revision from the Labor Department shows the U.S. economy created fewer jobs than first reported over a 12-month period.
That correction is in the hundreds of thousands. It's a big oops. It's fueling concerns the labor market is not as strong as previously thought.
Oops
Laura
a daisy.
Aguirre has details.
Oops.
It's an abrupt about-face for the U.S. labor market. Newly revised numbers released by the Labor Department Wednesday morning were stunning, showing 818,000 fewer jobs created over the 12 months leading up to March 2024 than previously reported. Data revisions are common, but not to this degree, and Wednesday's correction is the Labor Department's largest downward adjustment since 2009.
I know she gave a partial timeline for that. It was after May 2024. I'm trying to remember, do you remember the dates of when they were putting out the original numbers?
Oh, the original Bidenomics is working?
Yeah. I think that was like late 2023 or maybe mid 2023. I'm just curious because there's generally a push of some type of message when you're leading up to campaigns.
Yes.
And then once either the campaign is over or it's a foregone conclusion, that's typically when the other shoe drops.
It's a very good point. I don't have the timeline on that, but you can be pretty sure it was definitely politically motivated. We've talked about it, I think, in every episode so far. They couldn't gaslight the American people,
right?
That they weren't spending twice as much when they went to the freaking grocery. Or they paid their electric bill.
Right.
So, but the job numbers, that was the only bright spot that they could find that they could tout and say it's working.
The Biden-Harris administration often cited robust job growth as proof
800,000.
the U.S. economy was in great shape as they touted Bidenomics. And now we know U.S. employers added far fewer jobs than the White House initially reported. In fact, the U.S. Labor Department's revised figures show at least 818,000 jobs were added that never even existed.
So basically the exact number, which we shouldn't be relying on the government to create jobs anyway. They can't create jobs. But that's the thing that I like too, is that you notice none of the media, even when they're issuing the correction saying, oh, that their numbers were wrong, no one comes out and just says it plainly. The jobs that they created, none of them were. None of them make that connection. That's very interesting to me.
So it's actually 18,000 more jobs.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know,
we may have actually lost 18,000 jobs.
Yeah, so you get the point. Just a note for all You out there that may not have recognized it, Bidenomics was not working.
Yeah, it's just now hitting me that I kind of wish we had done this. We should have gotten a mashup of all of the people saying that inflation was transitory. Even the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, was saying that inflation was transitory. And then they slowly, over time, as it wasn't resolving, they slowly, very slowly walked it back to, well, we kind of expected this. And, because we are kind of giving, like $100 billion to Ukraine. And, it's just
our estimates were off. We're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we got the math wrong. We just forgot that when you print more money, it just devalues the existing money. We just kind of weren't thinking about that. Anyway.
So that's Bidenomics.
All right, so what do we got next?
All right. We're talking about lies. We're talking about the media propping up lies. Let's see one of the segments from the debate with Kamala and Trump. Let's see if we can spot any lies.
Yes.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
She's so annoying. And so we're going to, there were, in case.
Excellent commentary.
Yes, sorry. I know that was super insightful.
No,
I'm known for that.
Yeah.
So we're going to break that down lie by lie. There's a handful in there. But I did want to make a comment because she brought up January 6th. First thing I'll say is that, one, she was like, we see what happens when a politician doesn't accept the outcome of an election. Anyone who pays attention knows that every time, this happens in every cycle, not just when a Republican wins, not just when a Democrat wins. There are plenty of videos you can see. There were ones when George Bush won. There were when Trump won his first election. There are plenty of instances where Democrats have objected to the electoral count. They just hope that we forget about it or that we don't know about it. So, this isn't a one-sided thing. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, just touch on a little bit, since she mentioned January 6th, they love to mention January 6th, and they love to talk about how, there was an insurrection, people who, tried to destroy the Capitol. I just get tired of I can't repeat all the lies that they say about it. But anyway, no one ever mentions May 29th, 2020. But the May 29th, 2020 riots, you may remember them, the George Floyd riots, but there were in Washington, D.C., you may have heard about the St. John's Church that got firebombed. That was all a left-wing protest, exacerbated by lockdowns, right?
Comes on the heels of all the BLM riots.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And Antifa.
Yeah. But what they don't say is, because they talk about how violent the J6ers were, Like, they don't talk about, they firebombed St. John's Church, which is across the street from the White House. They overtook a guard shack of the White House. They overtook a guard shack.
Yep.
And there were over 60 Secret Service and police officers who were injured that night. And then there's these left-wing commentators, mostly online, Young Turks, Sam Cedar, and David Pakman. You can go search for on YouTube, media calls Trump bunker boy. They were all making fun of Trump because the Secret Service took him down into a protection bunker. They've overtaken a guard shack. And they were making fun of him, calling Trump a bunker boy. Like, oh, he's scared of some protesters. It's like, are you guys scared of the J6 protesters?
Like, legitimately?
Right, legitimately.
Not for political theater?
Right. Well, and then don't get me started on how the whole AOC thing, saying, where is she? Where is she? Have you heard that story where, like, you know, I'm hiding in my office. Next thing I know, I hear someone knocking on the door saying, where is she? Where? Like, she's like, I thought they were going to kill me. And the whole time it was a lie. It turned out to be Capitol Police were coming to get her, to protect her. But all of that happened before they even breached the barricades.
And she was in a different facility. And she talks like she was scared for her life, like the protesters were coming to kill her. And it's like, oh, my Lord. Oh. Anyway, I'm sorry. That was I didn't mean to take that long. No, that's good. And I'm going to back you up a little bit. So the perception that someone who questions the outcome of an election, or an election denier, as they like to call, the perception that that person is then a threat to democracy, and also that sort of language is
violence,
inciting violence. Okay. So I got a clip here. It's kind of long, so I might skip around a little bit. But
you claim that it's wrong to object to the certification of election results. You, along with your allies in the media, attempted to cancel and censor members of this chamber who voiced concerns and objected to certification. Manager Raskin, you'd been in Congress only 3 days when you objected in 2017.
This is Trump's lawyer speaking on the floor.
Yep. And that's Jamie Raskin, who, if you don't know, he's a representative in Congress.
Yep. Democrat. And all of the voices of anybody that is objecting or talking about elections are all Democrats in this clip.
It's one of the first things you did when you got here.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
That was when they were certifying the 2016 election.
There's no debate.
I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina.
I object because people are horrified. I object.
Objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina.
I have an objection to the electoral votes.
The objection is in writing,
these
and I
are,
don't care that it is
these
not,
are all
Democrat
objections from the 2016 election when Trump won.
I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of objection?
All right, I'm going to skip ahead.
And when the House managers realized that the president's actual words could not have incited the riot, as you alleged in your article of impeachment, you attempted to pivot. You said that raising the issue of election security and casting doubt on the propriety of our elections was dangerous. One of the House managers, Mr. Cicilline, told you that this is not about the words Mr. Trump used in isolation. Rather, it is about the big lie, the claim that the election was stolen. The House managers told you that it's the big lie that incited the riot, and that the big lie was President Trump's claim that the election was not a fair election, or that the election was stolen. Claiming an election was stolen, you were told, are words that are insightful to a candidate's followers and cause people to respond violently. Claiming an election was stolen or not legitimate is something that a candidate should never do, because he or she knows, or should know, that such a claim and such words can actually incite violent insurrection, you were told. Well, it seems that the House manager's position must be actually a bit narrower than that. The House manager's position really is that when Republican candidates for office claim an election is stolen or that the winner is illegitimate, it constitutes inciting an insurrection. But Democratic Party candidates for public elective office are perfectly entitled to claim the election was stolen or that the winner is illegitimate or to make any other outrageous claim they can. It is their absolute right to do so. You've been doing it for years.
You mean like Hillary Clinton saying that Trump was a Putin stooge? Is this, you mean something like that? Is that what you're,
Yeah, I'm going to skip ahead.
Telling your supporters
This is a Democrat speaking.
that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you. And ask yourself whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
Hillary.
He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard.
And I will not concede.
And I respect where you're coming from, and I respect the issues that you're raising. You're not answering the question. Do you think it was... You're not using the word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections and of ensuring the principle of one person, one vote.
That's Nancy Pelosi, by the way.
Tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
That's Bernie Sanders.
Constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines, which may not have paper receipts, have led to additional loss of confidence by the public.
That's Nancy Pelosi.
This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
Sorry for all the skipping around there. It was a really long clip. There's a ton more.
Yeah.
I actually have a recording. It's 28 minutes long.
Yeah.
Of Democrats
objecting to vote certification.
Questioning election results.
Yep.
And talking about voting machines and talking about all the things that, like, whatever you think happened, regardless, they're questioning all the things that
that they accuse the Republicans of or conservatives of
and they
questioning.
said that it was dangerous.
Yes, and
when a Republican would say the same thing,
and this again is just like most people have probably never heard these clips of Democrats doing it because the media does not cover that because the media is carrying water for Democrats, but they'll do it when Republicans say, hey, something's wrong here. So.
All right, so we're going to plow here. We took a little sidetrack, but I think it's relevant.
Yeah.
Because I can't count how many times I heard how dangerous.
Yeah.
How dangerous.
They're all, at all times and always, talking out of both sides of their mouth. If you hear a politician saying one thing, I can almost guarantee you can find a clip of them saying the exact opposite thing.
Or doing it.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's review Kamala during the debate. She talked about, let's remember Charlottesville, and Trump said very fine people on both sides. Okay. She mentioned the Proud Boys and him saying, stand back, stand by. And she mentioned that he said that there was going to be a bloodbath. Bloodbath, okay. So let's just break those down. We'll start. The first thing that she said was, let's remember Charlottesville. So let's remember Charlottesville.
Let's remember, and let's also remember when Biden announced his candidacy to run against Trump in 2020, he cited this as his reason for entering the race.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Washington and Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do.
Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
So yeah, and this goes to something that I mentioned in the last episode, whereas it's not always that they're just flat out lying to you. It's they're either taking something out of context or they sprinkle in an opinion with the fact that just kind of bypasses your brain and you don't recognize it as an opinion, right? And this is the prime example. They say, if they repeat, and like you were saying earlier, if they repeat it enough, right? Oh, well, Trump said there were very fine people on both sides. Yeah, he said that. Yep. But in context, he's saying, look, there were regular people there on both sides of the issue. And he even says, and not neo-Nazis or the white nationalists, or, they should be condemned totally.
Totally.
Right. But the media will never, and even Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they never mention the fact that he said they should be condemned totally.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, the only thing to debate there is if you wanted to debate how many of those people, they were part of a protest that was not part of those groups.
Right.
But that's not the context. That's not the conversation that's had.
Right. The conversation that's being had is Trump called all of those neo-Nazis very fine people.
Yeah.
That's the conversation.
Right. So he gives a presser days later.
But based on the events that took place over the weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, I would like to provide the nation with an update on the ongoing federal response to the horrific attack and violence that was witnessed by everyone. I just met with FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation into the deadly car attack that killed one innocent American and wounded 20 others. To anyone who acted criminally in this weekend's racist violence, you will be held fully accountable. Justice will be delivered. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said many times before, no matter the color of our skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred, bigotry, and violence.
And I would like to say to any of you out there who have heard over and over Trump is a racist, and to any of you who may believe it, have you ever heard that clip? I mean, does a racist say, no matter the color of our skin, we all need to love each other?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that sound like something a racist would say? I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No. I think it speaks for itself. So we showed you the very fine people quote. We recognize that 30 seconds after he said very fine people, he made the clarification that he was not talking about neo-Nazis or white nationalists, and they should be condemned fully.
Mm-hmm.
And then days later, he does a presser, and in that presser, he's very, very clear that this has no place in America.
Yeah.
And that anybody is going to be held to account.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's very fine people. Let's remember Charlottesville as Kamala says.
Yes. Well,
let's remember Charlotte.
We just remembered.
And let's remember what he said in his debate with Joe Biden about the Proud Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting one because she actually quotes him accurately.
Yes.
But let's get a little bit of context. So I've got a clip of that moment in the debate. This is Chris Wallace as the moderator when he's debating Biden.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing
to
do
specifically
that,
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
right. Like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI, FBI director said.
Well,
we were talking about this earlier, how, he's being browbeaten. This is not the moderator of a debate's job. The moderator and Joe Biden are both dogpiling him, browbeating him. Do it. Say what we want. Say it. Do it. You suck.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's like, fine, I'll say it. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Who do you want me to call out?
Yeah. For those of you that just heard that, and you heard what Kamala Harris said, I just made a little edit. And I just want you to think about the fact that in between this edit is nearly 30 seconds of both the moderator and Joe Biden hounding him to say something. This is back-to-back what he was asked to say, and then what he tried to say like 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
He was trying to remember what it was that he was asked to say in the first place.
Right.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities as
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Okay. That any normal person in that situation, he was trying to remember what he was asked to say.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's like you're trying to recall a turn of phrase, a specific turn of phrase. And you're like, but there are 5 phrases that are similar, and you say the wrong one.
Yep.
Right. And it's so ridiculous.
Yeah. So Wallace asks him to say, stand down, and will you not add to the violence?
Right.
I don't know that that's that much different. From stand by and stand back.
I mean, I understand where people who criticize him for that, I understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because if you take in isolation the phrase stand by.
I just don't think it's proof that Trump is a racist. I think that whole line is.
I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
I can see where if the phrase stand by, right, is like in isolation, right? That's like, a captain saying to his squad,
it's like, all
right, guys,
it's
stand
almost
by.
Like get ready.
Yeah, get ready, stand by, right? But again, that's in isolation, right? When you put it together with everything that was happening. It's just like, come on, people.
Well, and Trump has a way of doing that, and the media has a way of being intentionally dense.
Yes, for sure. Intentionally dense. That's a good way to describe it. Yes.
Yep. Okay. The next thing that she said was bloodbath. So let's hear what he said about
bloodbath.
Donald Trump intensifying his violent rhetoric. Surprise. Seemingly threatening a, quote, bloodbath if he doesn't win in 2024, while dehumanizing immigrants and embracing the terrorists who tried to topple the government on January 6th. Trump's bloodbath comment comes amid a campaign in which he's vowed to be a, quote, dictator, to target rivals and to seek, quote, retribution, which is why his critics are skeptical of the campaign's cleanup effort, claiming Trump was just trying to say, quote, Biden's policies would create an economic bloodbath for the auto industry and auto workers. But no one believes that. The campaign is forced to respond because the bloodbath comments are a big front page story in newspapers and a lead story on major newscasts.
Trump's campaign now on the defensive, warning while discussing the economy that there would be a, quote, bloodbath if he is not reelected in November.
Unhinged rally in Ohio. For an hour and a half, he delivered bizarre, rambling remarks, parroting language used by Adolf Hitler.
He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath.
This is why I like the phrase that you used, intentionally, what was it? Intentionally dense. Right? Mm-hmm. But so it's maybe that and a little bit of dishonesty sprinkled in, but we'll listen to the original clip.
So let's see if you agree with the media's intentionally dense take on what he was saying.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
When I originally heard the media's take, my jaw hit the floor. We're going beyond intentionally dense to just completely dishonest. It's clear to anybody that's listening to that in context, he's clearly talking about the economics and not like, if I don't get elected, there'll be a bloodbath. The military will hit the streets and they'll kill everyone. They'll shoot big, beautiful tanks. And, it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so intentionally dense is generous.
It's very generous. Sometimes it's accurate, but in that instance, I think it was generous to say intentionally dense. But they do it because they know that most people aren't going to go back and they're not going to look for the full speech and they're not going to listen to it because we've said in the last two podcasts, they think, one, that we are stupid, and they think that, two, people still trust them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have forgotten video now lives forever.
Right. Like you said, it's not in some dusty back room like the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that clears up everything that Kamala was talking about in the debate.
Yeah.
I think in context, after hearing the media's take on it, her take on it, and the reality, the actual in-context quotes, y'all can make up your own minds. But for me, it's pretty obvious that they're intentionally taking him out of context.
Yeah. And I get pretty fired up on this issue just because to me, it's like, it's so dishonest. It's so deceitful. These people are so power hungry like it's like they didn't get into the business of journalism to be journalists. They got into the business of journalism to help create cultural narratives or something, you know? And it's like, that's not what you're there to do.
No.
It's like they're there on a power trip, you know? And I get why, you know, some politicians enter politics for the power trip, because being a politician is a power trip. But journalism should be far, far from a power trip.
Yeah, you're supposed to be questioning power.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do this one real quick, and then we'll get to our last lie. So there was a bunch of stuff about him being a dictator and a bunch of stuff about him not relinquishing power. The Biden campaign sent Robert De Niro outside of the courtroom.
Yeah.
Where he was being convicted
on made up charges.
Insanely. I still have yet to have anyone explain to me those charges, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's Robert De Niro, the raging bull.
If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life?
He did once already. That's the thing that always gets me. People that always say like, oh, he's not going to relinquish power. Oh, he's going to be a dictator. And it's like, you realize he was already in office for 4 years once?
For anybody out there that still thinks that that's a real thing, rest assured, MAGA will not allow it to happen.
No.
If he was to do that, everyone that currently supports him,
no one would support him for that.
They would take arms.
For sure. Because the whole point of MAGA is not about Donald Trump.
It's not.
It's not about Donald Trump. And that's what people get wrapped up in. It's the cult of Donald Trump, but it's not, right? Mm-hmm. It's a group of people in this country, citizens, who believe that this country is a great country who's lost our way. Mm-hmm. And that we have to get our country back on track, and that believe in the Constitution, that believe in the rule of law. That is the base of MAGA. Now, whatever, there's crazy people in any category. You discount those people. But this is the base of MAGA. Those people would absolutely find it completely offensive if Donald Trump tried to do that. And that's a good point, Andy. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, they would take arms.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's not a thing.
It's not a thing.
And a lot of that is based around this quote that he had. So he was at this like Christian luncheon thing, and I don't know. It's very Trumpy. Here we go.
If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
It's very Trumpy. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian.
I'm a Christian. I love you, Christians. You got to vote.
But it's like what he says at the end, right? He's like, in 4 years, we're going to have it fixed. So you don't have to do it again. Right?
He says it twice.
Yeah.
He says 4 more years, 4 more years. He says it twice.
Yeah.
While he's saying that. Now, did he say it weird? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Trump.
He's Trump.
If you don't know who Trump is by now, and you don't know that that's how he talks, like, come on, give me a break.
But he also says, I'm a Christian. You know? So he had a little interview with Dr. Phil where Dr. Phil was questioning about this. So
yeah,
let's see what his response is.
They demonize you a lot. they make a big deal out of the fact that you said you're only going to have to vote one time.
Yeah.
You, like me, you're only going to have to vote one time ever, or whatever your quote was.
You know why that was? I said, and with a smile, Christians, for whatever reason, don't vote very much, proportionately. NRA people and people that feel very strongly about the Second Amendment, they're not voters. I don't know why. Maybe it's a rebellious streak. And I said to the Christians, we got to win this election. If we win this election, I'll straighten everything out in less than 4 years by a lot. Then you don't have to, it doesn't matter. In other words, I'm saying you don't have to vote. Doesn't mean we're not going to have elections. You're going to have elections, but you have to vote this time.
I think that's a simple clarification.
And it was pretty clear to me when I first heard it.
That's what he meant. Yeah.
That he was just saying, just this once.
Yeah, please.
Get out there and vote.
Yeah. Please do it. Do it this one time. Do it for your country.
We need you. We need you.
Yeah. He's asking for their help.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear to me, but there were a lot of people that made him nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're taking that clip again out of context.
Yeah.
And it's like the dude said 4 more years twice.
Yeah.
In that statement.
Yeah. I think that people just get so wrapped up in their own narrative. And I'm going to be frank, they get so wrapped up in leftist, cultist narrative that they can't, it's almost like they can't even think rationally about something. They can't put their emotions aside.
Well, and the propaganda is so thick.
Yeah.
That when people are saying that he's Hitler and he's this, that, and whatever, it's like, if that's all you hear all the time.
Right.
There's a part of you that feels virtuous because you think you're on the good side. You think you're one of the good guys by being like, screw that guy. I don't like Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I don't like Hitler. Screw that guy, man.
Okay, so we're going a little bit long. Let's end this on a both humorous and super, super sad note at the same time.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about who is, at this moment, the president of the United States.
At this point, I'm not even sure who it is.
Well, someone holds the title.
Yeah.
Let's hear from who holds the title.
The rapidly rising I don't know. Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America.
Wow, she's bad at math.
On my watch, instead of Infrastructure Week, America's having infrastructure decade. Over $1.3 billion.
I'm sorry. Like I said, hilarious and super sad at the same time.
Yeah.
What was that number?
I can't even comprehend it.
You got a pretty good memory. And
I can't because it's not a real number, so I can't.
You tell me what number it is.
Okay.
I'll let you listen to it again, okay? Should be pretty easy.
On my watch, instead of Infrastructure Week, America's having infrastructure decade. Over $1.3 billion.
$1,300,000,000,000,300,000,000. Is that? I think that's what he said. But it just doesn't. You can't logically put it together because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Apparently, that's enough to last for a decade. So, I mean, anyway.
So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to. Anyway.
I just forget it.
We're going to get a lot done.
They're going to get a lot done.
They're going to get a lot done.
I mean, anyway.
I'm not sure what, but.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
What
us that again. This is the definition of America. This is how it can be defined.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. I was going to put him.
Have you seen the memes where they try to spell out what he says?
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's more. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You can literally watch hours of footage of stuff like this. I always like to true and honest shop at the pressure. True and honest shop at the pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't even. We don't even mention Corn Pop.
Yeah, Corn Pop. Don't get.
He was a bad dude.
He was a bad dude.
You know.
Man.
So let's. So why is all this happening? Why is he saying all this stuff? You know. I mean,
and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video.
Totally
they are
fake.
done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation.
So fact checkers have proved that Biden is not senile.
And everything that you just heard was a fake.
It was all fake.
It was all fake.
Yeah, I mean,
that never happened.
No, not at all.
Matter of fact,
just listen to Joe Scarborough.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
You know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
President Biden, who I've been around numerous times just in this last year, is sharp, he's focused, he's bright.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart, he's on his game.
I was in almost every meeting with the president, and the president was in front of and on top of it all, coordinating and directing leaders who are in charge of America's national security, not to mention our allies around the globe.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America.
Wow, she's bad at math.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best
still our president,
Biden
everyone.
ever.
He is
well, he has
sharp,
the title.
Intensely
he has the title.
probing,
I'm
and
not sure who's running it, but
and focused.
For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. 1,000 billionaires in America.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart, he's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
And the people that I've talked to say he's as sharp as a tack. He's fine.
They say he's sharp.
There's not a problem. He was
That's
sharp.
the memo.
That's sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
The president is sharp and he is tireless.
He is sharp.
As sharp as ever.
And he's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
His brain is good. He's still great.
He is sharp in meetings.
I believe the people who say that behind closed doors, Joe Biden remains sharp.
In meetings, Joe Biden is sharp.
He's sharp, he's fit.
There is nothing to these challenges, these suggestions that somehow he's not sharp. He's sharp as a tack.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
Actually, Joe Biden is sharper and has more mental acuity than Donald Trump, because more people believe that actually Joe Biden mental acuity is better than Donald Trump.
I mean, he's sharp he's funny, he's sharp as a tack.
Kamala Harris says he is up to this task. He's, sharp as a tack. He's smart. He's energetic.
One of the themes this election cycle is that Joe Biden is too old to lead. And so everyone is seizing upon this. And it is a classic disinformation tactic. If you edit it in such a way, you can make it appear that he fits this narrative, that he is slow, that he is wandering off.
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie, that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
President Biden has proven himself to have a strong memory.
That was one of the funniest parts of it.
Yeah.
It's just as quick as that.
That was the thing Trump took the most offense to. He's never had an 8 handicap.
The biggest lie.
The president is sharp as a tack. Sharp as a tack.
President Biden's doctors say he is in good physical and cognitive health.
Joe Biden, sharp as a tack.
The president was sharp as a tack. The president's very sharp because he is so sharp and he's on top of everything.
He seems right on top of it. The man
He's sharp because he's so sharp.
And sharp.
He's completely mentally sharp.
He's sharp. He's engaged.
He is sharp, he is engaged, and he is commanding.
That's pretty sharp.
Mentally sharp.
Biden was sharp.
Sharp and substantive.
He is very sharp.
And he's as sharp as a tack.
Biden is sharp.
The president is sharp and as able as ever.
This is a man that's on his game.
He was focused. His recall was good.
He was actually quite sharp and on top of it.
He is on the ball.
And you're going to see how smart he is. And
This guy's as sharp as a knife.
Tonight, he may have to channel both the president in him and the bruising, brawling candidate in him, and maybe a little bit of Eminem in his famous 8 Mile rap battle.
I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from a household where the kitchen tables, things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem.
You see him interact. You see him engage. He took some questions and is sharp with his answers.
What I did, when, for example, he wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare
He's actually perfectly sharp. He's totally focused. He's very sharp. And the proof is in the performance.
I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay them. And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans.
I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
And there's no question that Biden presents stronger, younger, more energetic.
The president has no impairment.
I see his vigor. I see his energy. I say his age is an asset.
He's wise.
Yes, he's wise. He has wisdom.
He's at the top of his game.
I think he's better than he's ever been.
Sharp as a tack.
As I said, very sharp, incredibly engaged.
Strong, steady. He's always on the ball.
Not only is he fit to do the job, he's doing a hell of a damn job.
I thought he was sharp.
His strength is unshakable.
Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
The White House said Biden is sharp and his critics are playing partisan politics.
That's the definition of disinformation.
You did such a great job. You answered every question you knew.
You did so good. You knew all the facts.
President Biden is absolutely fit.
There's no doubt in my mind that the president is mentally fit for office.
I'm coming directly to you for Ask a Quick Favor.
I'm coming directly to you for Ask a Quick Favor.
For Ask a Quick
That
Favor.
was literally one of his campaign ads. That was the best take that they could get out of him.
Wow. That whole thing with Joe Biden was so cringy. Like it's funny because she has, they call her doctor, by the way. She has a doctorate in teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking teachers, right? But a doctorate in teaching, and they call her doctor.
You don't normally call someone doctor.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, like that whole thing, she literally sounds like a kindergarten teacher praising her kindergartners. You answered all the questions. You knew all the facts. And what did Trump do? He lied.
Yeah,
it's so
and the
cringe.
audience is like,
yeah. What are you talking about?
What are we
lady?
supposed to say?
Yeah, it's so cringy.
Yeah, that's the worst call and response from an audience I've ever seen in my life.
It was horrible.
Aside from the Aside from a few weeks later, Kamala tried to get a chant going. And it was like way too many syllables and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah. There was also one at her campaign events. She was trying to say, like, everyone was going, Kamala, Kamala, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, but say your own name. So it's like, what's that going to sound like? Like, it's just going to sound like garbled nonsense. You want everyone to chant their own name?
Yeah, she was accidentally like authentic.
Yeah, right.
For a second,
and you realize, it
doesn't make any sense at all.
She's retarded. I'm sorry, but everyone out there who's listening, I will regularly use the word retarded.
The R word.
I'm sorry. I grew up saying that word when it wasn't taboo. I love the word. It's a great word. It's the best word possibly ever.
I have words.
I have words.
I have words.
I have words. And they asked, like, is Trump a smart guy? And I'm telling you, like, yeah, I'm like a genius.
I'm like a smart person.
Oh, it didn't match.
Oh. Try it again. Try it again.
I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth.
That wouldn't fit in. But I was hoping to get like the one where he's like, I'm like a genius.
We're kind of making light of this, but the reality is they told us for years.
Yeah.
We could all see the decline. And I know for a fact that when Scarborough was saying,
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
And yeah, and he's like, I've known him for years. If you've known him for years, then you know right now that you are 100% lying to everyone.
Yeah, go F yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, you, Joe Scarborough, go F yourself.
Yeah.
These people are just disgusting. Like, I can't stand them.
Oh, and spoiler alert, after all of this and the bed shittings he did on a debate, he dropped out of the race.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing. I don't think he actually did it.
And but no one is questioning. No one is like, well, why? He waited like a week and then he put out some press release.
It was tweeted. The original one was tweeted.
Okay.
And I think the powers that be got a hold of his Twitter account and put that. So then he's made a public statement. He has to.
Right.
That's just my conspiracy theory, but I don't have any evidence for that. So, but, well,
I think that'll plant some seeds. We went a little long, but turns out Bidenomics wasn't working. They lied. Turns out all of the catchphrases from both Biden and Kamala's debates, all lies. Very fine people, debunked.
Just talking points.
Proud Boys, debunked. Media bloodbath, debunked.
I hope we did a good job in planting the seeds of doubt for those of you who may still believe in the credibility of the media. Because honestly, we don't want to do that to destroy your reality. We want to do that just to open your eyes and understand that the narrative that you've been listening to is just a narrative, and that these people cannot be trusted. Most people have known for a long time you can't trust a lot of politicians, but they've still thought they could trust the media. For those of you who think that you could still trust the media, I hope you understand now what they're doing and who they're in bed with. And that hopefully opens your mind to understanding where this movement is coming from. This is where the MAGA group is coming from.
Yeah.
They're tired of the lies. They're tired of all of it. They just want an honest government and honest media. And they want a good country, a good place to raise their family.
Yeah. And they were all called conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
And ultra, mega, MAGA extremists.
Yeah. And if you were one of those people who were pilloried and called a conspiracy theorist, we hope that we have vindicated you. Please take this podcast and share it, with any people who may disagree with you. Sorry, we know it went a little long, but we tried to lay this out sequentially for a reason, so that this is vindication for what a lot of us have known for a long time.
In closing, I'd like to add to that, and I'd say, if you were one of the people that bought into this, that thought what you were hearing was real, if you were one of the people that judged other people and called them conspiracy theorists, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay if facts are presented to you and you have doubts. It's okay. You are welcome.
Yes, you're always welcome to change your mind.
Yep.
Changing your mind is a sign of maturity and a sign that you're open to the truth.
And you should be pissed off about it.
Absolutely, you should be.
And if you are, welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. Thanks again, everybody, for listening to the Return of the Logos podcast. Again, thank you all so much for your support. Please share the episode. Tell your friends and family. That's how we're going to get it to grow, and we want to keep doing it. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.